Hi, it's Stu here from Samsung Now. Samsung Now is where we look at all things Samsung, all things tech and all things gaming and everything in between. I just wanted to do a quick video on some tips and I get a lot of messages relating to sort of sound and getting the best sound, and I know I sort of try and sort of explain how to get the best picture in my opinion. But there's also ways in which you can easily get better sound from the speakers that you already own. And it all comes down to good quality cables and isolation. Usually it's a good idea to at least spend 10 to 20% of your budget on what you spend. The usual sort of guide is 10 to 20% of what you spend on your system, you spend on cables. So that's what the equivalent is. So, you know, if you spend £1,000 on a bunch of speakers, then you spend between £100 and £200 on cables for it. Because, you know, the equation is, you know, the higher quality speakers need higher quality cables. So that's kind of the rule on that front, and you can work with it, and you know, always look at reviews and try and go for as good a cable as you can. You know, OFC cable that's from a good brand. You know, some sort of the more available brands like QED, and you know, you can sort of start off with those, but there's more sort of boutique brands that are less well known that are also available from hi-fi stores. In fact, you can sometimes get a better deal from a hi-fi store and get it by the meter rather than getting it online from, say, somewhere like Amazon or anything like that. So it's always worth having a shop around. Now the other thing is isolation. In my for music and what have you, I've got a pair of Mission, I can't remember the name of the speakers, B2s I think, can't remember. But when I had a studio, an audio studio, music studio, I used to have my monitor speakers on a set of Auralex foam isolation. They're kind of like you will see in the video, but they're very simple. And there's a very dense foam, and it's meant to isolate the speakers from the area in which they sit. And this isolation stops vibration being sent to the ground. By isolating and stopping vibration on speakers, it makes them taut. And how that is sound, if you imagine when you hear bass, and it's punchy, it's very quick, it's sort of it's hard to describe, but it's the timing of it is very quick. It's kind of not flabby, it's not wallowy. And by isolating a speaker properly, by using, you know, you can use something like Auralex if you want, but there are other versions of these. By using something like that and using a good solid stand, and if you can, fill your stand with a good heavy material. You can buy specialist material, but if you can't, just get bags of sand and just stuff them down the poles so it adds weight. The more weight and the more solid the support and the more it's detached from the ground and it's isolated, the tighter and better the timing and sound will be. You won't get any of this sort of wallowy bass, or and it won't sort of overtake the rest of the treble and the high end and the mid-range and everything. It'll all seem very taut and together. If you can't do that, at the very least, you can use blue tack, you know, the blue stuff that you hang things up that, you know, it's been around forever and a day. You can get a big glob of that and secure your speaker to wherever it is. And by using sort of big globs of of that at 4 corners, and then resting and pushing down and isolating it and making sure it's kind of on a hard surface like brick or something like that, that will help tremendously. Don't just sort of plonk it down and let it rest. Make sure it's secured down, and by securing it down with some blue tack on either sides, and it's the blue ticky-tacky stuff. I'm not sure what it's called in the US. I believe it's called blue tack. It will allow you to get a similar result. Not quite as good as using a solid sort of stand from Atacama or the Auralex foam things. But it's, at the very least, at the very low end, it's a good sort of guide. So those are sort of like quick tips on getting the best from the speakers that you already own. And by doing that, it makes your sound punchier, it makes the sound more taut, the timing quicker, everything sort of in its place without being muddled by one another. And you can experiment, of course, and it all depends on your budget, and I wish you luck. And if you have any questions, don't forget to let me know. Okay, guys, hope that helps. Thanks again. Bye-bye.